What do you think BAME actually means?
Black and mostly everyone. I don't know.
No, you didn't.
If I
Black and mostly everyone. Yeah.
So we have black, Asian, and I always thought it was mixed ethnicity.
No,
but
minority.
It's minority,
yeah.
That's
what it is.
Yeah.
So does minority cover mixed?
Well, this is the thing, where do I come into that? Right now, we live in Britain, and I'm really proud that we have such mixed cultures in this country. And I think you really don't see it enough on TV.
If you look at Nadia from the Bake Off, people do talk about how she's a Muslim winner of the Bake Off.
Nadia won the British Bake Off because she was Muslim, because people were like, oh, no, hold on, no, she's Muslim, she's a Muslim woman and this and that. And that's the story that I feel like kind of feeds into that.
Well,
and it's kind of like, oh, maybe she had an edge or whatever. She won because they just wanted to put someone there as the first something to win.
But it's what her story is, right? So that's the story that people carried, and therefore it's easier to talk about.
So I mean, looking at the Bake Off, okay, we have Nadia and we can look at her and we know straight away, okay, we've got an idea of what her faith is. But I don't think it's then enough that Nadia just becomes the spokesperson for that whole faith. People through
I
So
agree.
do you ever get asked, like, who would play you in a film?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Until Slumdog Millionaire, I had no one, and then I got Deb Patel.
Yeah.
It's like, Deb Patel will play you in a film. But like, you have to have that one person, but then it gets quite boring that there's no one else to pick from. Like now I've got Riz Ahmed, so I'll pick Riz Ahmed.
So I went out to the public and asked what they thought.
Do you see enough black people on TV, enough Asian people on TV?
No, I don't think so. Especially if you compare it to the US where I'm from, there's a lot more diversity on television.
They don't want to see black people in the TV.
Guys, what do you think about representation on TV?
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, okay, why is it terrible? Who aren't represented enough on television?
Everybody apart from straight, cis, white people.
Okay, yeah.
Probably isn't diverse enough. But I know that people are trying to sort it out.
I see quite a bit of black people, but it's about the stories.
Okay.
The amount of variety in the stories about black people probably isn't represented enough.
Okay.
I think putting the targets is good because you get the diversity, but it shouldn't be we're just putting someone there just for the sake of it.
I think they're doing the best they can, but they've got an awful long way to go.
Who was there doing the best that they can?
What a wise man.
I think the representation is there, and I don't think we're at a point now where if you walk down the street and you saw an Asian person or black person, you're going to be shocked to the point that you're fainting on the spot. You know, we do expect to see it.
I think the nervousness I have is that people see a Black Panther and they go, right, job done,
Yeah,
well
we've done it now, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, isn't this great? And then we just revert back to how it was before.
I think the hard thing about being mixed race is that I think it's just also this idea that we have to be defined. Like, it always really annoys me.
How do you define yourself? So I might say I'm British Asian, or I might say I'm British Indian, or I might say I'm Indian British.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say?
Growing up, people used to say to me, oh, do you think you're more black or you're more white? What even is that?
a lot,
And what does that matter? Like, does it depend who I am? Does that change who I am? Do I have to have a specific answer?
Okay, maybe another way of asking that question though is, do you identify or relate more to English culture or Nigerian culture?
I would say 100% English culture, because that's how I've grown up. There was probably me and one other mixed race person, and then maybe an Asian person, and that was it.
I remember when Goodness Gracious Me came out, and like what a moment that was to see Asian people on television, but also funny.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just how aware they were of culture. That's where people get a bit stuck, because they say, well, if we just make a programme full of brown people, then no one else is going to get it and no one will watch it.
What frustrates me is, how do you know no one will watch it because you've not given us a chance to watch it in the first place?
Yeah,
like, there's not enough of it.
But you eat our food.
Yeah, exactly, that's it.
We have the stereotype of the Asian person owning a corner shop. Just don't put Asian people owning corner shops anymore, and then you get rid of that stereotype.
But you've got to play a fine line with that, because I think if you misrepresent people, so if all of a sudden you've got like loads of Asian CEOs and heads of businesses,
it's not the truth.
It's not necessarily the truth.
But that is television always trying to tell the truth though? Is it not like a make-believe scenario anyway?
Well, it's half and half, isn't it? Because what you want to do is you want to sort of imitate what life is and what we see in society, but on the same hand, you also want to entertain people. So there's fiction and fantasy and all of that stuff, and I think people are careful to sort of like make sure there's a balance of some sort.
But don't you think today it becomes the focus. So like Riz Ahmed says that if he becomes James Bond, he would be the first Asian James Bond, and that will be the story.
But in this, we're in 2019 and they're still first, so we're still looking for first. There's still, I mean, you have the first black editor of Vogue, and that's what Edward Enninful, I think his name is. But it's like, even at that time, everyone is like, oh yeah, the first black. Like, I'm a little bit disappointed that in 2019 there are still firsts. I feel like we should have moved past the first. All the first
are you though?
should have happened. Well, yeah.
Just to play it out, I think it's in part because, well, at least in the Indian community, there's a lot of pressure on what kind of career and profession that you go to have and what is acceptable within our community. So to go off and be a magazine editor is not as accepted in the Indian community as to go and become a nurse or a dentist. So there's still stuff within our community that we're sorting out to say we need to open up our world and push through.
You have to begin the cycle somewhere, so you have to begin at the first, so that eventually the more that we are putting out into the media and on TV, children that are going through the school system are going to start to see this representation.
So are we doing well?
In terms of the representation?
Yeah.
I think there's a long way that we can go.
But
we've also come a long way.
But just to play devil's advocate, like I think a lot of people struggle to know what good looks like. So I think there's a lot of we need to do more than is it. But I think it's a bit like the word BAME, right? People say, oh, BAME targets or BAME this or BAME that. But black, Asian and minority ethnic are very different things.
Exactly, that's it.
I think my nervousness is that people club it all together and say, yes, we've done this for BAME as a whole, but actually the experience of black people and Asian people are really different.
And you know, I think that's so true.
So we need to keep the conversation open. We are better than where we were, but we've still got a long way to go. Stay woke.